I always like to start the lectures by defining choices. And according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, choice is a noun, and it's the act of selecting or making a decision when faced with two or more possibilities. I also looked at the thesaurus. I don't know, I guess you know what a thesaurus is. It's a dictionary of synonyms. And synonyms associated to choices are decision, determination, voice, free will, opportunity, choosing, election, vote, preference, expression of an opinion, and judgment. I want you to keep in mind the words free will, expression of an opinion, and judgment, just because we're gonna come back to them later. And we're also going to take a look at the classification of choices, because a choice can be something easy or something hard, right, to do. An easy choice or a difficult choice. And an easy choice is something that has at least two alternatives, and you can clearly see which one is the best. If I am, for example, inviting you to go swimming, and there's a storm outside, and I give you two options, an indoor swimming pool or an outdoor swimming pool. And you're like, of course, I'm going to choose the indoor swimming pool, right? Because there's a storm out. Or if I offer you broccoli or ice cream for dessert, and then, of course, you're going to choose ice cream because it's for dessert, right? Those are easier or easy choices. But hard choices are things such as choosing a course to take at university. We usually have to choose a course when we are very young. We are 17, 18, or even younger, and our parents sometimes put pressure on us to choose a career, like what you're going to do, what you're going to be in your life, or what you're going to be when you grow up. And we're like, I don't know. And many times we choose something and then we change our minds in the process in the middle of the course, and then we want to change courses, and that's a very hard choice to make. Another hard choice is to choose where to live. And for that, I chose a map of Canada, because when I came to Canada as an immigrant from Brazil, I was in between Halifax and Vancouver, right?
You did a good job.
And I think I did too, thank you. And Halifax, because I had 3 friends living there. Now only one or 2 of them are living there still. But I knew that I had somebody to like be with, or somebody to connect to if I need it. But that's a choice in our life. When we move in the same country where we live, or move to different countries, where should I go? Should I move to a different country or not? And if I do, which city should I live in? And that's a very difficult choice, right? Another difficult choice we have to make is where to work, or after we have chosen which course to take and then we know our career, where to work. Should I work at this company or this other company? The pay is better, but this is closer to my house and there's less commute, and that's a very hard choice as well. And when to marry, if you ever want to get married. Getting married is also a very difficult choice. Should I get married? Should I marry anybody? Should I be single? And then if you want to get married, when should I get married? Should I get married now? Should I wait? Should I first think of my career and focus on what I want to do and then get married later? Or that's so hard, right? Then if you get married, or even if you don't, having a baby, should I have a baby? Should I not have a baby? Should I have a baby now? And what is it better? Should I have 2 babies? And there's also pressure from society and from the family when you make those choices. And these are like countless choices, countless hard choices that we have to make. That we have to make in our lives. And I ask you, why is a choice hard? Why aren't those choices easy as the ones I gave you? Would you like ice cream? Would you like ice cream or broccoli for dessert? Or would you like to go swim in an indoor and outdoor pool when there's a storm outside? We many times think that a choice is hard because we are not clever enough to see the alternatives, or we are not clever enough to see which one to choose wisely, which one is the best. But actually, what makes a choice hard is that the alternatives relate in very similar ways. So if I have 2 choices that are very similar, then which one is the best, right? An easy choice is where You absolutely know, you have no doubt which one to choose. But a hard choice is like, what should I do? They both have their advantages and disadvantages, so which one is the best? That's what makes a choice hard. In easy choices, one alternative is clearly better than the other, as I told you. And in hard choices, it's the way the alternatives relate is very similar. So, what do we usually do when we are faced with a hard choice? What do you usually do? We usually take the safest option. And safest does not mean that it's the easiest. And I'm also going to go back to that within our lecture. So I want you to keep that in mind. We usually take the safest option. Then talking about hard choices again. Let's say you are in between two careers. One career in art and the other one in law. And in your opinion, well, you like them both, so in your opinion, they seem equally appealing to you. So a hard choice, right? Should I study arts or should I study law? Or should I look for a career in arts or in law? Then let's try to make this choice a little easier. Because I told you that an easy choice is a choice where the best alternative is clearly the best one, so you have no doubt, right? So let's say that if you choose the law career, you're going to make $500 more a month than if you choose the arts career or the career in arts. So I have added money there. $500 more a month. Does that make the law career a better choice? Not necessarily, right? You might still be more drawn to the artistic career. But why is that? I have clearly added an advantage to the law career. So why doesn't it make it easier for you to choose the law career instead of the artistic one? And the answer is because of values. It's not a mathematical equation. It's not like comparing the weight of two suitcases. If I have two suitcases here and I want to compare their weight, there are only three possibilities. One is, let's think of one suitcase. It's either heavier than the other one, or lighter than the other one, or they have the same weight, right? But when I'm comparing two hard choices, there's so many variables. There's so many values that we have to consider. So we make choices based on what we think is right for us. What matters to us is different from anybody else, and what matters to me might not matter to you, and vice versa. So a choice that is really hard for me might be very easy for you. You might see if you have two alternatives, you might see the two alternatives as one being clearly better than the other one, and I might look at them and just think, well, they're just the same. So when we look at somebody and when a friend, for instance, asks us for advice, and we look at them, we're like, how can't you see that this is the best thing to do? And they're like, oh yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure. And we're like, come on. It's for us, according to our values, that choice is the clearly easy one. But for that person, it's totally different. So going back to our first slide, where I told you about the definition and the words associated with it, free will. That's where free will comes in place. And election and voting. Well, we have an election coming up, right? And expression of an opinion and judgment. It's what I think is right for me, it's what I believe is correct. It's based on my background as an immortal spirit. There is no right or wrong choice. There are only choices. Better choices will help us grow and develop as human beings, allowing us to work on our inner transformation. Not so good choices will prevent us from evolving faster and will create a temporary obstacle, a detour, if you will, and make things take a little longer. So our evolvement and our path to happiness will take longer. But that doesn't mean that it was a wrong choice, right? When you look at your past and you think, I shouldn't have done that, I made a wrong choice. Well, at that time, with the knowledge you had and with the background that you had, you thought that that was probably the best thing to do. And looking back today in hindsight, you will see that it wasn't, but because today you have learned more. So you should be happy with yourself that you have evolved, right? It's if only it were that easy. So choices depend on us, right? I forgot to change. It's important, again, to point out that we have free will to make our own choices, and nobody else is to blame if things don't go as planned, because it's us. No one else is to blame but ourselves for the choices that we make. Based on our values, we will choose what makes sense to us. So if I have a bunch of doors in front of me, I might choose that door, and most of you might choose, or some of you might choose the other one, and vice versa. And we are agents. We are the agents in the process, right? So if something doesn't go as planned, I don't want to use the word fault, but it's your own fault, meaning you brought the consequences upon yourself. Okay. But we are imperfect beings, right? Many times we make a choice and we think it's the best one, and then it isn't. But we thought it was. And as I said before, this is actually, if you realize that in the future, it's actually a good thing, because you've noticed that you've improved. But we are imperfect beings, so how can we aim to make better choices? That's where the Spiritist knowledge helps us. How can we choose better? We've been making choices since we were created as spirits. And you might be asking yourselves, but when I was created as spirit, I was created ignorant. And how can I have made choices being ignorant, not having any knowledge? Today, I might be a little better than I was when I was created, but as a newly created spirit, how can I make choices for my own sake? And the Spirit's book has the answer. There is a question there. We have already studied, by the way. I have the question here. That says, how can spirits possess freedom of choice between good and bad at their own origin when they have not yet acquired self-awareness? Is there any principle leading them to either one road over the other? So if we don't know any better, how can we make a good choice, right? That's basically the question. And then the spirits answer that free will is developed as spirits acquire consciousness. Freedom would not exist for them if they made choices by any means other than of their will. The causes that determine their choices are not within, but outside of them, via the influences to which they voluntarily yield because of their free will. This choice is represented by the fall of humanity and the concept of original sin. Some spirits yield to temptation, while others resist it successfully. So it's basically our instincts. When we were not able to make choices, we didn't have the awareness or the consciousness, or enough consciousness, I would say, to make choices. It was our instincts that made choices for us. And as we developed, or as we are developing, we have started to use our free will to make better choices. We can conclude then that we are today a sum of all the choices we have made in the past, including this life and the other ones we've had, right? We are exactly where our choices have brought us. So try to pose as a victim, or try to ask yourself when something difficult happens to you, trying to ask yourself, why me? Why? Is just not the answer, because you are today the result of all the choices you have made in previous lives and in this one. And let me show you another slide that just summarizes what I said. Our past choices make who we are, and we are the sum of all our choices. So there's no way to escape from who we are. Question 262 is of the Spirit's book, is also about the same topic, and it asks, As a spirit, at its origin, is simple and ignorant, or simple, ignorant, and without experience, how can they make an intelligent choice of an existence, and how can they be responsible for such a choice? If I don't know any better, as I said before, how can I choose wisely? And the answer is God supplies what is lacking through their inexperience by tracing out for them the road which they have to follow, as you do for the infant in its cradle. But he allows them, little by little, to become the master of their choice, in proportion as their free will becomes developed. It's then that they often lose their way and take the wrong road. If they do not listen to the advice of the good spirits who endeavor to instruct them, it is this which may be called the fall of a man. So as we become more aware of the facts, we start, or we should start, making better choices. And we have read before, I think it was in the Spirit's book, that the more you know, the more will be asked from you in the afterlife, right? Like you had all this knowledge, why didn't you put that into practice? Because as we grow and as we evolve, we should be making better choices. It looks easy. We know what we have to do. We know we develop our free will, or we have developed our free will since we were created as spirits. We know that we should listen to the advice of good spirits. We know that we should put the divine laws into practice. Very easy. Yeah. It sounds easy and simple. But there's always a but. I like but like that. Sorry. How about the unconscious choices that we make? All the choices that I told you about and I exemplified or brought examples of were conscious choices, right? How about the unconscious choices that we make? And I have a little picture of the brain going away. What do I mean by unconscious choices? I have a little story to tell you. It's a true story. It happened to me. And I was actually telling some of you the other day, I work at a school and I've been working there for almost 6 years now. And there's this teacher who is awesome. She's from Canada. She's married. She's been married for about 3 years, I think. She's tall, very slim. She has blue eyes and wavy, like blonde, wavy hair. She has the most amazing body ever. I hope she doesn't ever watch this video. She has the most amazing body ever, like being tall. She could be a model. I've told her a couple times that she could be a model. She's really pretty. Besides, she's awesome. She's an awesome person. She's very positive, and students really like her. We as colleagues like her a lot too, my other coworkers. And she's funny, and so I'm like, right? Then the other day we were at the teacher's room having lunch, and a teacher was complaining about her husband, and she was saying that he's a very argumentative person. Not this teacher, another one. He's a very argumentative person, a very difficult person to deal with. And then this particular teacher, the beautiful teacher, she said, "Oh, I think I've been so blessed because me and my husband, we've been married for about 3 years, and we have such a good relationship," she said. Like, we talk about everything. And then me, with my imperfection, I was like thinking, I didn't say anything, of course, but I thought, "Oh yeah, look at you, aren't you the perfect little person," right? And I did think that. I'm sorry, but that really happened. And then later that day, I was looking back at what I thought. I was like, Christiane, how could you, she's never done anything to me. She's such a nice person. So that was my unconscious choice. I made a choice to, yes, I judged her at that time because I was probably comparing her to me, and I thought I wasn't good enough. So I felt a little hurt by her awesomeness, and right. So I don't want to have those kind of thoughts anymore. And I'm sure the energies or the vibrations I was emanating when I thought that were terrible. So I want to stop doing that. That was an unconscious choice. It wasn't something that I wanted to do or I wanted to think. We have So unconscious choices, everyday choices we make without consciously thinking about them, of course, because they are unconscious. But that, for example, that not so kind comment that you make to a person, or that judgmental thought that you have, like I did with this particular teacher, those choices are mostly controlled by our ego, right? So we should not let our ego make our choices. We are in control. So how can I avoid unconscious choices? Or how can I make my unconscious choices conscious? I can choose not to make that nasty comment. I can choose not to respond impulsively to an insult. I can choose not to judge someone. It's easier said than done, too. But if we go back to question 262, of the Spirit's book, I have highlighted, if they do not listen to the advice of good spirits, us, right? We should always be open, always pray, and always be connected to our mentors and listen to the advice of good spirits. That is a way of them helping us to know ourselves, and we work on our inner transformation so that we can turn our unconscious choices into conscious and become better beings. So listen to the advice of good spirits, pray, ask for help. Good spirits are always around us to help us. There's also another story that I want to tell you. This is not a happy one. Well, the ending is happy, but not the... I was living in Brazil. I was kidnapped twice while I was in Brazil. I don't know if you guys know about it. You know, when you were... we used to call them... I don't remember what we used to... Yeah. Like, how do you say relâmpago? Like, yeah. So, but it's a fast, yeah, where when they take you with them, like thieves or criminals take you with you because they want to withdraw money, and then they let you go. It depends on how long. Like half an hour. Yeah. So I was kidnapped. I was in a car with 1, 2, 3 other guys, and I was with a friend of mine. And I remember I started shaking and shaking and shaking, and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But at no moment did I think of God, you know? Did I go like, oh my God, help me? No, I didn't. Then I started thinking, well, maybe I'm not going to give them my password. Or if I go together to the ATM with them, I'm gonna type in the wrong password. And then if you do it 3 times, it gets blocked, right? So I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna give them my money. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. You know. Then suddenly I felt this. It's heat combined with a kind of energy, or combined with the sensation of being lifted and from your seat, and I felt this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful energy around me, and then I thought of God after I felt the energy, and I was like, oh my God, please help me get out of the situation alive, and please help me make the best decisions I can, and I felt very calm, and I gave them the correct password, and they withdrew the money that they wanted, and I went home safe and sound. And then later at the bank, because they knew it was a kidnapping situation, they refunded the money, and everything was okay, you know? So that was that was for sure good spirits trying to tell me, no, Christiane, don't do that. That's going to be a bad choice. You might get in trouble, as you said, right? So be open, pray, ask for help, which I didn't at that time, but I should have done it. Saint Augustine, in the Medium's book, part 2, Spirits Manifestations, chapter 21, Dissertation by Spirits, and that's a photo of Saint Augustine in the Medium's book. There's a little passage that I wanna read to you. It says, good spirits come only to those who attract them by their fervor and sincerity, a fact which is not yet sufficiently comprehended in your world. We see your labors with pleasure and are ready to aid you, but on condition that you second your action by the action of your wills, and that you show yourselves equal to the mission you are called upon to fulfill. Be united You will thus be strong for evil spirits to prevail against you. That's so pretty, right? Like, we are here to help you. You're never alone. And we see that you are trying, and we are here ready to aid you, ready to help you. But you have to think before you make a choice. And you have to try and call for help, and we will be there so that your choices will be better. That's very pretty. You also know that in the afterlife, many times we choose some of the trials that we want to go through here on earth, right? And many people have made difficult choices. They want to experience something really difficult, and they want to see and try to go through that so that they can grow. There's also another question on the Spirit's book, 266, that says, is it not natural to choose the least painful trials? Because we might think, why would a person choose something difficult to go through, right? Why wouldn't they just choose something easy, and then they know they're going to succeed? And then I go back to the marshmallow. Children were given a marshmallow, and they knew that if they waited, they would get 2. So it was not easy for them to wait, right? You could see their pain. And they sniffed it, and they touched it, and they didn't want to look at it. And it was not easy, but it was really rewarding in the end when they got the 2 marshmallows. So it's the same thing for us, right? If I'm going through a trial, would I rather choose something very easy now, and then it's going to take longer for me to go through my imperfections? Or should I choose something more difficult now, but I know that in the end, the reward will be better? That's why I said I was going to go back to the marshmallow thing. So it makes sense, right, to endure a more painful time now, but to be sure that in the future you're going to have something good out of it, something amazing, actually. And the answer to the question continues. The fact that we are free to choose our successive lives and the trials that we have to undergo ceases to appear strange when we consider that spirits, being freed from matter, judge things differently. As in human life, we often choose the hardest conditions as a means of attaining the highest ends. Why would a discarnate spirit who sees farther than it did when it was in physical body not choose a hard or painful existence if it may lead to eternal happiness? And I guess also the answer is they judge things differently because they see much more. We are going to see much more than we do now. Our vision is limited here on earth. So it's important to keep that in mind. There's a third part to the answer. To the same question 266. Errant spirits say that they seek, study, and observe to choose wisely. We see similar examples in corporeal life. We often spend years deciding which career to choose, a decision that we freely make because we consider it to be the one in which we are most likely to succeed. If we ultimately fail in the one we have chosen, we seek out another, and each career constitutes a phase or period of our lives. Is it not each day used by us to decide what we will do tomorrow? What do different physical lives mean for a spirit, if not simply transitional phases, periods and days in comparison to its spirit life, which is its normal life? The corporeal life is nothing more than transitory and temporary. So the same way we choose a career here, we might choose a career, and then in the end, after studying for a couple of years, we realize that it wasn't that thing that we wanted, and then we make a change. The same thing, the spirit considering the lives. The life that we have here is temporary. So we make a choice, and then we make a mistake, and then we do it again, and then we do it again, and then we go back, and then it's the same thing. And the sentence that I wanna point out to you is the one that says, because we consider it to be the one in which we are most likely to succeed. I don't know if you remember, but remember when I was talking about hard choices and easy choices, and when we're faced with a hard choice, we take the safest one. it's actually the one we believe we are most likely to succeed. So it's not actually the safest, right? It's the one that we believe we're going to be more successful in. And of course, that's what we do. We don't want to fail. We want to be successful. We want to make the right choices. So if I am faced with a hard choice where the alternatives are very similar, I'm going to choose the one which I believe I'll be more successful in.
There is sabotage, right?
Yeah, that's another point for another lecture.
Yes.
Okay, so what we have to do is work towards making better choices, right? Let's make better choices. How? How can we do that? We, as I told you, we have to turn those unconscious choices into conscious choices. We do that by loving yourselves. It's very simple. Love yourself, but not simple to do it. Oh, by the way, these steps to making better choices were I first saw them by Al Turi. He is from Orlando. He is a participant of the Peace and Knowledge Spiritist Center. So this is not my idea. I just want to say that I got it from him. I thought it was really, really interesting. So love yourself. How can I love myself? Make a realistic evaluation of yourself. Identify your positives and your negatives. When you identify your negatives, like, I am too impatient, try to turn your negatives into positives. Make a list. And on your list, instead of writing, I am too impatient, write, I am patient. If you think that's not true, because you still think you are impatient, you can write, today I will be more patient. So that is a way for you to try to turn your negatives into positives. Forgive yourself. Let's say you have hurt somebody. When we hurt somebody and then we keep thinking about it, it's like we are reliving the day or the situation, right? Because the situation happened only once. But if you keep thinking about it and thinking about it, you're reliving it every day. So how many times have you actually hurt that person in your mind? Many times, because you're reliving it. There's actually research that says, MRI research that says that the brain doesn't know the difference.
Yes.
When there is a situation where something happened, and if you keep thinking about that situation, your brain is actually producing the same chemicals it did when the situation happened. So you're really reliving that situation in your brain. That's not forgiveness. You're hurting yourself. So honestly, try to honestly forgive yourself for something that you have done. And I'm talking about a situation in which you hurt somebody, but that somebody could have been you, right? Yes. So don't relive that situation many times. Try to forgive yourself. After all, we are a total of all our actions to date, good and bad. Exactly where we are now is where we have put ourselves. So don't blame yourself. Well, you are to blame. Sorry. But don't forgive yourself for all the bad choices you think you have made, right? As I said before, I don't believe they're bad choices. They're just good choices. But don't beat yourself up. Don't keep thinking about it, reliving the experience. After you have written the list of things that you want to change, like I am more patient, or I will be more patient today, try to make your words a reality via action. And the fact that you're writing them down helps you remember them and helps you keep them in your mind. So if you are a very impatient person and something happens in your day and you feel like you want to lose your patience, lose your temper, you just try to think of what you have just written in the morning or the day before. Because repeated good behavior alleviates affliction and expedites evolvement. It's like when you're training a dog, right? Training a dog is this repeated good behavior. You do something I want you to do, and then I'll give you a treat. So you tell yourself, Christiane, if you do something I want you to do, I'll give you a treat. So repeated good behavior. Yeah. I'm making a joke, but that's kind of it too. Choose to love yourself. Love is a conscious choice. Choose to love yourself daily. By forgiving yourself, you will be loving yourself. Use prayer and study frequently. Study the doctrine and study yourself. Try to look at yourself in the mirror. Going back to the story of the teacher that I told you, the very beautiful and nice teacher, why did I think that, right? What is it in me that I have to work on not to do that kind or not to have that kind of feeling or thought again? This is something that I have to figure out and I have to work with it. But if I don't think about it, if that day had passed and I never had thought about it, I'm not trying to work on myself, right? But as the same way I am trying to love myself, I'm not beating myself up for having that thought. Yes, I did have the thought. I acknowledge that. Now from today on, how can I change it? Looking at myself in the mirror. There is, this is actually,
We can make questions just
to,
at the end.
I guess in the end is better, right? I am about to finish. So to close, actually, we have, this is question 919 from the Spirits book, where Saint Augustine gives us, tells us how to be a better person. The question is, what's the most efficacious method ensuring one's own moral improvement in the present life and resisting the attraction of evil? Because this is what we all want to do, right? And he says, it's a longer answer, but I'd like to read it to you. Do what I myself used to do during my life upon the earth. At the close of each day, I examined my conscience, reviewed all that I had done, and asked myself whether I had not failed in some duty, whether someone might not have a reason to complain of me. It was in this way that I succeeded in obtaining knowledge of myself, and in ascertaining that there was in me that needed ascertaining what there was in me that needed reforming. He who every evening should thus recall all the actions of the day, asking himself whether he has done ill or well, and praying to God and his guardian angel to enlighten him, would acquire great strength for self-improvement, for believe me, God would assist him. Ask yourself these questions. Inquire of yourself what you have done, and what was your aim in such and such a manner. Whether you have done anything that you would blame in another. Oh, I like that sentence. Whether you have done something that you would blame in another. Whether you have done anything that you would be ashamed to avow. Ask yourself also this question. If it pleased God to call me back at this moment into the other life, should I, on returning into the world of spirits in which nothing is hidden, have to dread the sight of anyone? Examine what you may have done. First against God, next against your neighbor, and lastly against yourself. The answers to these questions will either give repose to your conscience or show you some malady of which you will have to cure yourself. Self-knowledge is, therefore, the key to individual improvement. But you will ask, how is one to judge oneself? Is not each man subject to the illusions of self-love, which diminish his faults in his own eyes and find excuses for them? The miser thinks himself to be merely practicing economy and foresight. The proud man thinks his pride to be only dignity. This is true, but you have a means of ascertainment that cannot deceive you. When you are in doubt as to the quality of any of your actions, ask yourself what would be your judgment in regards to it if it were done by another. If you would blame it in another, it cannot be less blamable when done by you, for God's justice has neither two weights nor two measures. Endeavor also to learn what is thought of it by others. Do not overlook the opinion of your enemies, for they have no interest in disguising the truth, and God often places them beside you as a mirror to warn you more frankly than would be done by a friend. Let him, then, who is firmly resolved on self-improvement, examine his conscience in order to root out his evil tendencies, and he roots out the weeds from his garden. Let him every night cast up his moral accounts for the day, as a tradesman counts his profit and loss. He may be sure that the former will be a profitable operation than the latter. He who, after this footing tip of the day's doings, can say that the balance of the account is in his favor, may sleep in peace, and fearlessly await the moment of his awaking in the other life. Let the questions you address to us be clear and precise. Do not hesitate to multiply them. You may well devote a few minutes to the securing of a happiness that will last forever. Do you not labor every day with a view to ensuring repose of your old age? Is not this repose the object of your desires, the aim that prompts your endurance of the fatigues and privations of the moment? But what comparison is there between a few days of rest, impaired by the infirmities of the body, and the endless rest that awaits the virtuous? And is not this latter worth the making of a few efforts? Last part. I know that many will say, the present is certain and the future uncertain. But this is precisely the error we are charged to remove from our minds by showing you your future in such a way as to leave no doubt in your minds concerning it. This is why, having begun by producing phenomena calculated to arrest your attention through their appeal to your senses, we now give you the moral teachings that each of you is charged to spread abroad in his return. It is to this end that we have dictated the Spirit's book. And that's it. Thank you.